All right, guys, welcome, my friends. The time has come, and another community call is among us. This time, I'm joined by more of my friends from the team. We have Yago, our co founder. We have Hillary, our CCO and co founder. And then we have Gadi, who's also our CTO and co founder as well. I am actually waiting for him to join the space. Um, so the purpose of today's call is obviously to highlight some of the incredible breakthroughs that we've been having, talk about the BOS token, and then we will dive deep into zkBTC, programmable Bitcoin, as well as our updated roadmap, which is the Book of BOS. Before we dive into the purpose of today's community call, however, we've invited Andrew. As you guys know, he is the co-founder of Charms, to come on and address some of the recent issues that you guys have been facing with the Charms Bro meme coin. Andrew, how are you, my friend? Hopefully you're doing all well. We'd love to hear from you.
What's up, aliens? I'm doing great. It's been 3 days since the Bro meme coin went live, and it's been the first chance for a lot of you to try out the Charms protocol, which you guys have been excited about for a while now. So I've been really excited. There's been a lot of interest, and I really thank all of you for being so interested in trying out the protocol. Mining yourself some Bro. It's been really exciting and awesome. Now, that being said, I wanted to just put out a message to all of you this morning just to make sure that you're all aware that we discovered a bug within the Charms wallet this morning. So, just to be clear, this isn't a problem with like the broader Charms protocol or anything, nor with the broader BOS system, but it's fully on the Charms team, and it just has to do with the Charms wallet software. So, I discovered this morning that some people, particularly those who have sent BTC out of the Charms wallet, may have accidentally destroyed some of their Bro or even most of their Bro in the process. Um, Now, if you haven't sent any BTC out of the wallet, your funds are completely safe, your Bro is safe. I don't believe this is applied to most people either, from who I've spoken to about it so far, but it did affect me. And I ended up losing most of my Bro in the process. So I'm going to tell you guys how I ended up doing that, so that you can be aware, and also so I can tell you like how we're preventing you guys from running into the same mistake. So we discovered that within some of our updates, uh, the wallet, as particularly as we were like switching back and forth between some of our node providers in these early stages, uh, one of the wallet updates ended up reverting back to a version that allows you to spend UTXOs at your Bitcoin address that are actually associated with your Bro tokens, or they hold Bro tokens inside of them, the Bro that you've minted. And Charms Wallet is supposed to be designed so that it doesn't let you do that. So that if you send BTC out of the wallet, it only affects BTC in your wallet sitting at transaction outputs that are meant to hold BTC and aren't holding any charms. But we ended up reverting to a version of the wallet that wasn't like that. I sent some BTC back to myself within the Charms wallet to like consolidate some funds just to like clean up my wallet a little bit. But then what ended up happening was it gobbled up all of the Bro UTXOs that I had minted up until that point. So when I came back to it, I'd only discovered it a little bit later when I went and revisited my address on a blockchain explorer, and I discovered that all of my 1,000 SAT UTXOs were gone. And then I tried re-importing my Charms wallet into another device, and I confirmed that, my Bro balance on the original device, it wasn't displaying correctly. On the new device, it was displaying correctly, and like most of my Bro were now gone when this occurred. So that stinks for me. But my first concern was to which of you this might have affected. So I let you guys know on the Discord, and I discovered that most of you haven't encountered this problem, but some of you did. Some of you discovered that you couldn't find any of your UTXO. Some of you were talking about it yesterday, like kind of like late evening, that you'd encountered this. And so I spoke to a couple of you, and this was indeed the issue. This was the thing that like had caused you to like lose your Bro balance. So for those of you who encounter that issue, um, you can feel free to DM me on Twitter or Discord, and I will fully refund you in BTC for any of the UTXOs, bro minting UTXOs that you ended up losing. So that I have you fully covered on that, fully on Charmsing for letting that happen. We've discovered the issue, and as a precaution, just within the Charms wallet, we've disabled the sending button so that you can't run into that issue again. And we'll re-enable it, frankly, quite soon once the issue has been resolved in the background. From now on, also, when you send BTC out of the Charms wallet, you'll be able to view exactly what UTXOs are being sent in that transaction through a little drop-down window. So the wallet is designed now. It will be designed so that it doesn't default to your bro UTXOs, but you'll be able to verify that yourself before you send the transaction as well. So if there's any 1,000 SAT UTXOs being sent, you know that that would be dangerous, but that shouldn't be an issue after this. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Any of you who fear they may have lost bro in this manner, I recommend you go to your UTXOs tab in the Charms wallet, or you check out your bro minting address on a blockchain explorer like mempool.space and view your UTXOs and make sure that you still have 1,000 SAT UTXO for every time that you've minted bro. If you don't have that, and instead you notice that like all of those UTXOs have been consumed, particularly in a BTC sending transaction, then your bro may have been destroyed. You contact me and I'll refund you for all of that. So again, that doesn't apply to most people. Most of you haven't been sending BTC out of the wallet. So if you have done that, if you haven't sent any BTC, your bro is safe. This is only a Charms wallet issue, and it does not reflect anything on the broader Charms protocol or the BOS system. So with that being said, thank you to all of you again who are participating in this really early. Like, we appreciate that you're enthusiastic to go and like play with the first charm at this stage. We're not perfect. We're going to run into some problems like this, but we really appreciate your patience in all this. And most of you have been very patient and charitable with us during this process. So thanks a lot, and happy mining. And DM me if you have any problems.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate that. I know the community's been having an extremely fun time mining. I know I have. It's been my first like mining experience. So, but you guys heard that. Just to re-clarify so everybody's clear on this point, any issues that's happening with Bro itself is not a reflection of what's happening within the Charms protocol, nor is it a reflection of the BOS protocol itself either. Again, there is no correlation between the actual Bro meme coin and the BOS protocol. So I just wanted to highlight that. But again, Andrew, thank you so much. And like he said, if there are any issues that you guys are having, if you did notice that you are missing your bro, please DM Andrew. He is also known as the solution on Discord, and he is offering a solution to you guys. So, yeah. From there, let's move on to the intros, my friends. Andrew, feel free to drop, my friend, if I know you're super busy with like some of the bugs and stuff taking place. So, yeah. Anyways, before we get into what's that? Okay. Before we get into the main discussion, let me quickly introduce you all to the amazing people that you will be hearing from today. First, we have Derek Matter, also known as Gadi. He is our CTO and co-founder. He is the one who is leading the technical breakthroughs that's making zkBTC and the Grail possible. Gadi, please introduce yourself, your role at BOS, and we'd love to hear a little bit more of your background in crypto and tech.
Hi, guys. You can hear me, right?
Yes, my friend, we can hear you.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm acting as CTO in BitcoinOS. It's my privilege to be the engineer who's responsible for the technology. I think it's a hugely interesting and challenging role. My background is in cryptography. I came from military intelligence in the 90s and have been working in various cryptographic projects since then. And I think that blockchain is the opportunity to put all of that to good use. It's probably the most interesting thing that happened in the field in the last 30 years. And that's it.
Amazing. Thank you. And I know Sheer was talking about that you have like a husky. Is that your husky barking in the background?
He's a golden retriever.
He's a golden. I got you. We'd love to see pictures of him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'd love that. But all right, let's move on to our next team member here. We've got Hillary, who is the co-founder of BOS and CCO. She's been at the center of driving this vision from the very beginning. Hillary, please introduce yourself, your position at BOS, and also give us a short history of your crypto journey.
Thanks, Alien. Okay, first of all, Gads, I had no idea you had a golden retriever. I guess we're a golden retriever team. That just made me love you even more. And I don't know why I didn't know you had a golden retriever, considering I've known you for quite a while now. As Gads mentioned, he is the big brains behind the operation. I'm just floating on his coattails. I get the luxury and the privilege to kind of lead our commercial efforts, and so I oversee our marketing team, and the department head there. I oversee Claire as head of community. I oversee our BD team, and Calvin, who's our head of ecosystem, as well as some elements of DevRel, although Gads also shares that responsibility with me. Um, I've been a marketer for a long time. I got a utterly useless but nonetheless lovely degree in poetry. I That's where I did my MFA here in New York at the New School. I can't say it's done much for me in life. I'm not a published poet in the last 10, 15 years, but made me good at narratives, I suppose. I'm a good writer. I see the world in a little bit of a more artistic lens. Um, Up to you if you think that's artistic or autistic, to be determined. Um, anyway, started off my career in cannabis as a CMO. When I finally got off the park bench for being a poet, and did Web 2 for a couple years, and then I really got into crypto because a friend of mine had me help with an early blockchain media outlet called Blockler. And that was like 2015. But I really, really didn't get involved in crypto until around 2017, which is when I think a lot of the Wave 2 executives and Wave 2 members of the larger crypto ecosystem got involved. And probably that's because of the ICO boom and ICO era. The first project I was at was a project called Topple. Um, I was really interested in it because what they were doing at the time was really using the blockchain to track and trace physical assets, wine, the temperature of wine, making sure that wine stayed at temperature. It was like when you send a bottle of Bordeaux from France to New York, if that wine dips below a certain temperature, the value of that wine has completely disappeared. And I found that to be an actual use case that was interesting. We were just a little too early and nobody cared. We also tracked COVID test kits to make sure that they stayed at temperature, et cetera, et cetera. One of the coolest things we did, and what made me continue to stay in crypto, was that we had developed a system by which you could track and trace coffee beans and chocolate. So we had worked with Tony Chocoloni out of the Netherlands, and you could scan the QR code on a bar of chocolate, and you could see all the way back to the farmer who had created that chocolate, and then you could tip that farmer uh, through crypto. And so for me, I said, okay, wow, this is amazing technology. It really democratizes finance when it comes to consumer product goods, to the point where you could even go so far back into the supply chain as to tip the original farmer, who is ultimately the most underpaid but has done the most work. That's what kept me here. What pushed me into Bitcoin was that in 2022 or 2023, I think Bitcoin was like summer Bitcoin the summer of 2023, Bitcoin was hovering around like 17, 19K. I went to go get a mortgage, and the mortgage lender said, okay, you know what? Convert all of this crypto that you have on your balance into cash, say hold it for 6 months in cash, and then come back to us, and we'll approve your mortgage. And I basically said, fuck you, I'm not doing that. So I still don't have a mortgage to this day. um, I wanted to make sure it was the best decision I made, to be honest, and I wanted to make sure that I was one of the participants actively working to make it so that people could put their BTC to work and use it in functional ways. I'll say that's me. I met Yago and Gads about 2 years ago now, and it's been a really great journey with the two of them. Um, so thank you for having me on, and I'm sorry this is really the first time you're hearing from me. I tend to stay in the background with my role, but I'll be here more often from now on.
Wow, amazing. Hold on. So, had no idea that you had a degree in poetry. We learned about your cannabis experience. Incredible. Would love to hear more about that later on. And then we had a little lesson about wine and import, export, and coffee beans. That's incredible. Really appreciated that like level of transparency. It really set a nice solid tone here. Um, Finally, guys, we have Yago. Most of you guys have already met him, but we are reintroducing Yago because I know that we have a lot of new community members here. He is the co-founder of BOS. He is an amazing storyteller, as you all know. He is our fellow Gigabrain and extremely passionate Bitcoin maxi in the most positive of ways. Yago, please introduce yourself, my friend, your role at BOS, and share a little bit more about your journey and history in the space.
Thanks, Alien, and hi everyone. It's great to be on a call with you guys again. Um, and there's super exciting things happening. So I think I'm going to need to be on these calls more frequently from now on because things are starting to move very, very quickly. So just a quick background on myself. I kind of fell into Bitcoin by mistake. 14 years ago, I was working at Carnegie Mellon University on AI and machine learning, sort of in its very, very early and primitive days. And I read the wrong white paper by mistake, and it blew my mind. And it, I I read a paper which described the solution to two, not just one, but two crucial problems that I'd been thinking about a lot. One was the fact that there were no property rights in the digital world, no property rights in the internet, and as a result, no economy that had been developed by this most phenomenal technology, and people sort of didn't own anything. Only the owners of the platforms owned everything, which was something I'd been very concerned about at the time. And then the second thing is that even back then, I was very worried about where the world was going. I saw that not just one, but all of the countries of the world were on the same track, and I couldn't identify any way that they would get off that track. And that track was increased debt, more and more demands by politicians and the people who vote for them to continuously increase that debt, and a coming debt and fiat crisis. And so I was expecting inflation, and indeed I think I back in the day I thought it would happen more quickly, but the things that I was worried about then are happening now. And so I read the Bitcoin paper, and it described a solution for both of those things, both a system which created digital property rights and the ability for anyone anywhere in the world to transact with anyone else in the world in a real in real economic transactions, creating contracts which didn't require a intermediary in the middle in order to enforce, and at the same time, the creation of a new uncensorable and non-inflatable asset. And so I wrote an email to everyone um, that I knew basically. It was a send all to everyone that they have to pay attention to Bitcoin. Mostly it was ignored, but at least one of the people who got that email is actually working with BOS today. And for the last 14 years, across multiple different projects, and having worked with some of the exchanges, having started one of the first remittance companies in the space, and having built in the space for 14 years, including helping to build Sovereign into the pioneering project of Bitcoin DeFi. I'm now in a phenomenally exciting place, which is this vision that I've been entranced by, and sort of what I've seen as my personal stake in trying to make the world the kind of place that I would more want to live in, and I would want for my children. The ability to take Bitcoin and turn it into a system which can be a generalizable ledger for all of the property rights of the world, a generalizable settlement mechanism that everyone in the world can trust, and a system through which we can connect all of the disparate, fragmented pieces, not just of the crypto ecosystem with all of its chains that right now don't talk to each other, but also other pieces of the world like TradFi with DeFi. We need sort of a nexus of trust that can connect all of this. And I think for many years, myself and the people who are building on BOS identified that there's really one key piece of the puzzle that is missing to make all of that happen, and that is the ability to bring programmability to Bitcoin. And we are now on the very precipice of not only have we already demonstrated all of this on mainnet, but we're on the precipice of bringing it into production in a way that can be absorbed by mainstream developers, mainstream users, mainstream traditional financial institutions, and DeFi. So extremely exciting times. And Elian, I hand it back to you, but I'd be, if you want, I'd be very interested to talk about why I'm so particularly excited right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I was about to get into that. Obviously, you know, I wanted to obviously take a moment to acknowledge like some of the incredible progress we've made. Looking at the bigger picture of what we're about to capture, it really showcases how far we've come and how much bigger this is than any of us ever imagined, right? So please dive into it. Take the lead here. The mic is all yours.
Great. So a lot of you have been following this for months now, perhaps as much as almost a year. And over the last year, we've continuously put out pieces of the puzzle, pieces of the system. But over the last 6 weeks, we are in a bit of a phase change. And you guys may have seen this in some of the most recent announcements. So effectively, almost all of the components of BOS have not just been demonstrated, but are actually being used in one way or another in their early phases as mainnet systems. In other words, the BOS system, in terms of its core functionality, already exists, and that has really come together over the last few weeks. Now, we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. We haven't announced a stable initial release. We haven't announced a production sort of V1.0 because there's a gap between having the working system, having it, all of the plumbing in place, and sort of having the system being move-in ready. It's like the difference between having the house built and all the wiring and the plumbing in place, and the difference between that and having, the house painted, the furniture in place, and the house actually being move-in ready. But in terms of the basic house, it's built. And so we're getting very, very close now to being able to, we're in the final stages of putting together the pieces which allow for the first true version of programmable Bitcoin capable of integrating with other systems, where Litecoin and Cardano are going to be the first clear examples, and the first system which allows rollups to Bitcoin. All of these pieces are in place. And you can see this. I think the most dramatic example of this is we introduced a institutional grade version of the Grail system called Grail Pro just a few weeks ago. And we did this in sort of the doldrums of August when people are mostly not paying attention. But this is a system designed from the ground up to be able to integrate directly into the existing systems of custodians and institutions who today hold some 6 million Bitcoin worth, you know, uh, six hundred no $1.2 trillion in BTC actually, and integrate with their existing systems, and allow those systems to allow those institutions to begin to utilize their BTC without it ever leaving their custody, as collateral, as yield, and at the same time will soon also allow them to begin to utilize charms for the issuance of institutional products and institutional assets, truly turning Bitcoin into a platform which can support and act as a ledger for all of the world's traditional assets. Not only that, but we've introduced, so the first BTC, small amount right now, only around 90 BTC. We capped it at 90 BTC, and that was taken up immediately. But the first 90 BTC, or around $10 million at the time, has flowed into the system from these institutions in the form of zkBTC. So we've issued the first programmable BTC on the Bitcoin network. So we actually, for the first time, have BTC which is fully programmable on Bitcoin, and which soon is going to be portable without the need for traditional bridging to other chains. And we also have well over $1 billion in this type of institutional BTC, which has already signed up to gain access to the system as we increase the limits on how much BTC we're allowing into the system. And so as we build confidence with the security and the productization of this system, we're going to be dramatically increasing those limits, allowing first tens and then hundreds and then ultimately billions of dollars to flow into the system. At the same time, we have started to see the first uses and the first projects, Charms Inc. being a clear example of projects that are building out new types of feature sets, functionality, and tokens on the Bitcoin network. And we are making significant progress on the integrations, both with Bitcoin rollups and with significant chains like Litecoin and Cardano. So the vision is coming very, very clearly into focus right now. And I know that not only is the project technology important, but also sort of the asset and the financial viability of the project, and its and your ability to use it. And so one of the other exciting things that is happening right now is that most of the final components and agreements that are necessary for the token to be launched and begin trading on exchanges across the world are in place. It's mostly an issue of scheduling and some final details that need to be worked out. But TGE is also very clearly in view and will be just around the corner. And so August is usually the month, the summer month in which nothing happens. But for us, it has been an extremely exciting period. And for me personally, it is the consummation of what for me has been for 14 years, what I've been working towards, and a dream that I have of what Bitcoin and crypto can truly be, is finally becoming a reality. And so I'm more hyped than I've been for. I actually probably should sit down.
How exciting, guys. How exciting. I know the community is probably ecstatic right now because they've been so excited to hear about BOS directly from you all. And you guys have been building in the background, so it's nice to get you guys on the space here. And then, I'm sure I've just been kind of like sounding like just like robotic as of like the last couple community calls because I just keep repeating myself. So, thank you so much, Yago. That is so exciting, and I really genuinely think that this is turning out to be so much larger, so much bigger than we could have possibly ever imagined, guys. So, very excited for what's to come and very excited to finally put an end to fragmentation and see the unification of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. With that, Yago, you did mention a little bit about TGE. Did you want to share any more thoughts there, or should we move on
Well,
to the
I
main
can
core?
say, look, I mean, there's very,
Yeah.
as I'm sure anyone who's been in crypto for more than a few days knows, we can't really talk about this. Um, we want this to be a um, a broad and successful event which allows for basically anyone in the world to gain access. And part of that story is also working with global exchanges, including centralized exchanges. And so um, we are not able to speak until they have very strict rules around. Um, they get to make the announcements, and it only happens sometimes a few hours and sometimes a day before. Some of the exchanges will do 3 days before. So we won't be able to actually announce any time beyond that. But much of this work is already behind us, and we are now in the phase of finalizing scheduling and so don't expect it to happen tomorrow or next week, or I mean we're still weeks away. I want to be clear on that, and we won't be able to say exactly when it is happening. But there's been a huge amount of work on the part of the team, fantastic work on the part of the boss team, Hillary's team, the BD team, and a huge amount of excitement from the exchanges, and a lot of that is due to you guys in the community, the amount of interest and the amount of activity that we've been seeing, um, and so we're getting ready for that as well.
Fantastic. Appreciate the transparency there, Yago. It's always very refreshing to hear. All right, guys, like before we dive into the main core focus of today's call, which is the updated roadmap, the Book of Boss, and then zkBTC, the first ever programmable Bitcoin, I wanted to share today's secret code with you guys, and that is 9,000. So 9000. There you go. And then I also did want to share that today I am doing a kind of like a mini giveaway for you guys, just as once again, a token of our appreciation for your attendance, for being advocates, for being loyal supporters of us, for being so excited about Boss. So I will at random pick someone from today's call to be the winner. But you do have to make sure that you're following me as well as the team. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to reach out to you because I absolutely will not DM you first. I'll just tag you in one of our posts. So please do make sure that you're following us all. And then I will make that announcement once this call ends. With that being said, my friends, let's dive into zkBTC, guys. So for the first time, we are making Bitcoin fully programmable. Either Yago or Gadi, feel free to walk us through this. What is zkBTC and why is this such a incredible breakthrough for the crypto space?
Gadi, if you want,
Yeah,
you jump in, and I'm happy to join in
yeah,
as well.
yeah. I'm here. So zkBTC is a charm. Charms is a token standard that uses the power of zero knowledge proofs to add programmability to Bitcoin. So what we're creating really is a world of applications, and zkBTC is the doorway to that world. That is the way for people who own Bitcoin to go into the world of new interesting applications and take part in it. So zkBTC is a charm, as I said. It's a charm that is, its value is pegged to the Bitcoin with exactly 100% collateral. And the way we do this is, unlike most stable coins in the world that keep the collateral in some bank account or in some company account, zkBTC is pegged automatically and programmatically in such a way that it doesn't rely on the goodwill of any person for the collateral to be turned back into Bitcoin. In fact, it's permissionless in such a way that if BitcoinOS goes out of business, if we go do something else or disappear completely, it doesn't change the fact that you can still redeem your Bitcoin back by burning zkBTC. So it's pegged to the value of Bitcoin, and that's what allows you to take the Bitcoin that you own and walk into the world of zero knowledge proofs and zk applications and all of that good stuff that we have planned.
I'd like to,
Incredible.
yes, I'd like to add a little bit on in terms of what this actually means, and sort of what are some of the applications. So, I think one way to understand this is to use the analogy because of Ethereum. So, this is something that most people are already familiar with. In that, when people think of Ethereum, they think that Ethereum, right, ETH is programmable, fully programmable. But ETH actually isn't fully programmable. For ETH to be fully programmable, it needs to be wrapped in programmability. It needs to be wrapped effectively in a smart contract. And so every time anyone has ever used ETH in DeFi on like Uniswap or Aave or anything, what they've actually been using is what's known as this sort of wrapped ETH, this programmable ETH called WETH. What's so fantastic about the way that WETH works is that the vast majority of people are actually not even consciously aware of this, right? So it's a completely seamless experience. It's a experience which doesn't add new um, counterparties. It doesn't add new trust assumptions, and it importantly also doesn't add a tax event, right? So it's not like you're selling out of ETH or handing your ETH over to someone or converting ETH to WETH. Your ETH now becomes programmable ETH or WETH. And so what zkBTC represents for the first time is the Bitcoin equivalent of WETH. And what that means is that what we're building is a system which can become as seamless, as transparent, move into the background in the same way that WETH is, and as a result, it's truly the same asset, simply being used in a different way, and also as a result, and this is important to anyone who's using these systems, as opposed to using what typically has been called like WBTC, Rep BTC, it is not a taxable event. And while a lot of people can ignore the potential tax implications of using WBTC, institutions cannot. And so for institutional use cases, having something like WETH, having something like zkBTC is incredibly important. But it's also just as important for the ability to build true DeFi applications, the ability to build systems which don't have additional trust assumptions, and the ability, and this is key, to have a truly seamless UI and user experience. So what we anticipate this does is it opens up the door for creating truly seamless, efficient, and secure DeFi applications for Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network itself. And because zkBTC has this powerful property of being able to be ported via cryptographic proofs, right? And the user doesn't need to go to a bridge, but can perform this action by themselves, can port into other kinds of execution environments, can port their BTC to Cardano, can port their BTC to Litecoin, can port their BTC to Bitcoin rollups themselves and port back themselves. These systems now merge into effectively a deeply integrated system where this world of Bitcoin DeFi and DeFi more generally can exist on the Bitcoin blockchain as well as the broader crypto ecosystem, unifying for the first time these ecosystems. So it's really important from the perspective of security, from the perspective of UI, from the perspective of opening up new use cases, and from the perspective of tying together Bitcoin with all of these other systems. It works seamlessly with all other types of assets that can be issued as charms and then later as CNTs or other types of assets. And it is purpose built to be able to work with what is becoming a increasingly important part of the market, which is sort of like TradFi involvement in Bitcoin and in crypto.
Amazing. That was an extremely comprehensive overview of zkBTC. Very exciting. I do want to say that we are slightly running short on time, and we do have quite a few a lot of questions from the community. So we may need to keep like some of our answers on the like more shorter, precise end of the scale. But I did want to get into the Grail here, the Grail Pro specifically. We kind of announced it with zkBTC, kind of didn't really make an official highlight overview of this product, but can we just dive into the fact that zkBTC is obviously powered by the Grail Pro? You kind of already explained about what makes the Grail different from traditional Bitcoin bridges in the past, but do you mind covering that again? And then can you explain why institutions need it?
Yeah, so I'll try and keep this very, very short. At the core of the vision for how we were constructing BOS from the very beginning has been Grail. And Grail's ability to provide programmability to Bitcoin, both Bitcoin the chain and BTC. What we realized around the middle of the year as we started demonstrating this primarily to custodians of large institutions was that their systems would not play well with Grail. Grail is really designed to allow anyone to use the system in this way. But because of the architecture of custodial systems, we needed to build a system which was purpose-built for institutions. And so we spent the last few months building out Grail Pro as a counterpart, as a companion piece, basically, to Grail. And today, Grail and Grail Pro are effectively the same product, but represented in their general purpose and their institutional forms. And we've started with the institutional form because for the institutions, by being a Grail Pro operator, the system for you is truly trustless. One of the key things that we've made a point about is that the cryptography allows us to have the system be fully secure with what's called a one of n security assumption. In other words, that's unless everyone who is using the system is corrupted, the system maintains its cryptographic integrity. But if you are an operator, which the institutions are, two things happen. One, for them, they don't have this one of n assumption because they are the one of n. So for them, they can directly maintain the crypto. For them, the system is trustless. But the other thing is that as these institutions join the system, their level of security is added to the security of the system, because so long as one of them remains secure, the entire system remains secure. And so by launching the system through these institutional players, we basically piggyback off not just the security of one of them, but the combined and aggregated security of all of them. And they effectively, kind of for free, are going to be securing the BOS network.
That was a beautiful answer. Absolutely beautiful answer. So you mentioned that institutions hold about, I believe, 6 million in Bitcoin today, which is roughly 1.2 trillion dollars, I believe.
Well, I may have gotten my maths wrong there, but yes.
All right. Well, my maths is not good too. I failed math 99, so right there with you. How does how does the Grail Pro unlock this dormant capital? Obviously, our goal here is to make Bitcoin as kind of like the foundation of the global economy. Like, how are we shifting towards that with the products that we have?
It basically opens up the ability for BTC to be used directly with DeFi, as well as the Bitcoin network to host other kinds of assets which can interact trustlessly with BTC. To give a simple example, because that's an entire world of applications, to give a simple example, what this means is that, let's say I want to borrow against my Bitcoin. I can turn my Bitcoin into collateral. In other words, I can say, all right, here's BTC in the form of zkBTC. I'm pledging it as collateral, but it's not moving. It's not going anywhere. I'm not trusting anyone. And so long as I keep making my interest payments, the BTC effectively remains mine. And once I've finished making my interest payments, the BTC automatically unlocks and becomes available to me again. And so this is the first time that it's possible to use BTC as collateral without taking on any counterparty risk.
Wow, amazing, short and precise. Thank you so much. With that being said, let's quickly move on to the updated roadmap. As you guys know, we recently announced the updated roadmap, also known as the Book of BOS. So let's dive into chapter 1, which is the transformation phase of the Book of BOS. So what are some of the key upgrades that are happening right now with Grail Pro and Charms? Obviously, you guys have dived into this with the previous questions that I asked, but could you just give us a quick like TLDR of what's taking place? Uh, Gadi, if you'd like to jump in there, my friend.
Yeah, sure. So right now we're in the phase that we're testing internally Grail Pro together with Charms, and we're we're minting zkBTC in order to represent TVL. We're also concentrating a lot on the user experience, which is now the focus for us because we want to have a good user experience later when we launch these products. And we're working on integrating the system with custodians and third parties and other blockchains. And that will allow us later to put into play the zkBTC that we mint so that it can be used on additional systems and blockchains.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And yeah, we're moving a little quick here just because there's, like I said, a lot of community questions coming in. Let's move on to chapter 2, which is the production phase. What does testing and institutional piloting look like for the Grail, and how does Charms eventually evolve into this like DApp ecosystem?
Well, for anything to be a DApp ecosystem, there need to be applications, right? So that means that we have to bridge the gap. I said, I'm not sure I did say earlier, but I should have said that Charms is a blockchain agnostic protocol. And what this means is that a charm really exists no matter which blockchain it's on. When we put it on Bitcoin, it enjoys Bitcoin security, and we can then beam it, we use the word beam, bridgelessly and trustlessly to other blockchains to participate in whatever applications exist on those other blockchains. So by institutional pilots, what we mean is that we want to bring in custodians and third parties to integrate with the Grail Pro. And by integrating with Grail Pro, they increase its security. Because every time somebody becomes an operator, they increase the security of the entire system. DApp integrations means that we need to be able to beam the charms to other blockchains so that people can use them on existing DeFi indexes on other blockchains such as Cardano and EVMs. And we want to scale TVL by gradually building more value and increasing the availability of zkBTC.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gadi. And then the final question for you guys, which is for chapter 3, the expansion phase. Yago, you might want to jump in here. What is the big vision here? What does BOS look like when zkBTC, Grail Pro, Charms are all scaled and in production?
The big, so the end game is that we no longer have this distinction between traditional finance and crypto, between crypto and Bitcoin, and between Bitcoin, crypto, and the internet. The end result is that users will be able to log on to applications in the same way that they're logging on to applications today through their computer, desktop, their phone, or through whatever AI assistant is doing this in the future, and they will be able to transact. Now, the assets that they'll be transacting on are going to be global and censorship resistant and secured by Bitcoin. They're going to be able to use these systems without there being the limitations of having to choose a specific blockchain on which they are developed, because they will work across all blockchains, because that's the power of blockchains integrating with Bitcoin, and Charms being a cross-platform system. And so the assets are able to move from one system to another seamlessly and still remain programmatically tied to the same smart contracts that they were, regardless of what that chain is. So that it's easier, I think, to describe how that works and why that's important by drawing the comparison to where we are today. So if you're a developer today and you want to build a web application, you build an application, you put it on the internet, and everyone in the world can access it, and you're done. Build once, access everyone. But if you're building in the crypto space, you have to choose a blockchain. You can build a system, but any smart contracts that you build work only on that chain. If anyone has an asset in that system and they move it to another chain, it can no longer talk to the smart contract. And if you want to be able to access everyone, you basically need to go and redeploy your smart contract in different languages, different security assumptions, and across multiple different chains. And from the user's perspective, this has created an extremely fragmented experience with worse UI, worse security, and worse liquidity. And it has also really limited the degree to which crypto can be adopted. Beyond that, because the space is very fragmented and so much of the activity is happening across all of these different chains with different assumptions, it's significantly limited the degree to which traditional finance and traditional assets can migrate into this world, because the world just feels unsteady, constantly changing, and extremely immature. And so what we are building here is what we see as the ultimate opportunity in using cryptography and securing property rights by cryptography, which is to build a single cohesive world where all assets can interact with all other assets, all people can transact with all other people, and the experience is seamless, not because there's a huge amount of bridges and meta protocols that are built in between, but because the fundamental architecture of the system is logical, unchanging, simple, and secured by Bitcoin.
Incredible. One piece of information that's stuck with me that you've shared in previous calls and with the community as well is that you can have this incredible piece of technology, but without an operating system to come in and manage resources, create this seamless user experience to create interoperability between apps, you're going to be kind of left with this state of like chaos, which is ultimately where we're at with crypto today, right? So I think that's the ultimate goal here, once again, is to end fragmentation, to create unity, to create oneness. And with that, we can kind of take cryptocurrency, take Bitcoin, take the global economy to that next level, to that next step. Um, so with that, let's dive into the community questions. I'm going to try and get through as many as I can here. Again, we're probably going to have to like keep it short and precise with the answers. I did want to mention once again, guys, for those of you that are just joining, that I will be doing a small giveaway today. I will be giving that out randomly to one of you, but you do need to be following me as well as the team here, because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to actually like reach out to you. I will not be DMing you. I will be tagging you if you are the winner. So that will be announced after this space. Um, let's move on to the questions. So Stormfister asked about TGE, but we did mention that. I will still give you some XP for Zeely there, my friend. Let's see, Lord Whitefire. How will the Book of BOS address high Bitcoin network fees to make zkBTC practical for everyday DeFi use, like lending or trading?
In two ways. First, the ability to utilize your zkBTC across a multiplicity of chains that integrate with Bitcoin via BOS. And second, by taking transactions and being able to aggregate these transactions so that you and perhaps 1,000 other people making thousands of transactions can, um, behind the scenes, convert those transactions into a single transaction on Bitcoin. And so the benefit of Bitcoin security is still maintained, uh, but you're sharing the cost of that Bitcoin transaction with potentially thousands of other transactions.
Thank you, Yago. This next question is surrounding the presale. Sudi said, I would like to ask a somewhat critical question regarding the presale. The presale was supposed to end a few weeks ago at TGE, referring to Q2. However, it was left open with two main arguments. One, more people should have the chance to participate, and the postponement, postponement, or rather, not all 5% has been sold yet. You are currently releasing a lot of cool announcements that are keeping the hype going. Unfortunately, this generates less FOMO because everyone can still buy. How do you ensure that there will be a high demand at TGE when you are already making so many fantastic announcements about products? Um, Early buyers did get a better price, but the differences are relatively small in the stages.
Yes, I'm happy to address that. From the very beginning, it was clear that we would leave the pre-sale open until TGE. And the reasons for that are primarily to do with regulatory considerations. Um, the um, reality is that we are keeping it open, but as you guys have probably observed, there isn't a significant marketing push around it. That is not the goal right now. The goal is to get to TGE. And the primary opportunity is that this suddenly opens up um, there's a moment where suddenly BOS token and the BOS system become available to the world across a huge number of platforms that people are already familiar with. And so there will be a marketing effort in the lead up to TGE. It will not be focused on the pre-sale, and I would say that there's effectively two things here. One is that our goal is not to build hype for the purposes of the day of TG. The day of TG is going to open up the ability to be part of BOS to the world anyway. We don't need to make extra efforts there. And second, this is not a project which is aiming for, as its most important day, when the BOS token is launched and when it begins trading. That is in many ways the least important day. What happens and what is important is what happens afterwards. Over the next few years, we will be building what we believe, and I think with good reason believe, is a fundamentally critical part that has been missing not just from Bitcoin but from all of crypto, which is the operating system, which allows crypto to truly become a mature system and be used by the world for all of finance, all of property. And we're doing this at a time when the world is becoming so interested in being able to use Bitcoin and to use crypto for what has up until now been TradFi. So we're introducing this technology and this critically important OS just as the world is demanding exactly this, because the world of TradFi is now merging or seeking to merge with Bitcoin and crypto.
Well said, my friend. Well said. This next question comes from Cutlass. You expressed excitement for the AMA, appreciation for everything that we've been doing, appreciation for always answering your questions. Thank you so much, my friend. That's what we're here for. However, your question was surrounding the the Charms Bro meme coin. If I could just ask you to please reach out to the solution, who is also Andrew, in general chat to help you out there. I would appreciate that, my friend. I will still give you XP though for participating. So Steve Hoppy here said, could you please describe the flow of a basic DeFi transaction with zkBTC and how long it would take for the transaction to be finalized on the actual blockchain?
Yes, so I'm going to once again use the very, very simple example, which I consider the most simple primitive for using BTC in DeFi, which is I can um, uh, turn my BTC into collateral. If I'm an institution, I can turn my BTC into collateral while it still remains within my wallet at the custodian, so it doesn't even leave my wallet. And I can borrow against that so that I can generate yield, or so that I can start seeing some of the value of that Bitcoin without taking on any counterparty risk. And where there are very clear, predefined and automated rules about how I get my Bitcoin to no longer be collateral. And the reason I would want it to no longer be collateral is because I would want my Bitcoin to be completely free, right? I can use it in any other way. I don't only want to use it as collateral. And so from the user's perspective, they would come to some kind of application. They would say, all right, I want to borrow against my Bitcoin. I borrow, I put in a Bitcoin, I borrow, you know, Bitcoin $70,000, and I pay back that $70,000 over the next 5 years, and now my Bitcoin is unencumbered again. And so it's a completely seamless experience without any third party being required in the middle. Now, from there, much more complex and interesting things like yield programs, like staking, like managing inheritance can all be built. And the best way to think about what it will look like in the early days is to look at what DeFi looks like in the rest of crypto as sort of like a test example or an early example of what of how Bitcoin will be used.
Thank you, Yago. Appreciate you diving into that. Do you feel like you have a couple more minutes, or should we come to an end here?
I think we could do a couple of more minutes.
Okay. With that being said, guys, I'm gonna have to just pick through some like random questions here to give fairness to everybody. But like I always tell you guys, you know, if you want your question answered, make sure that you get those out as soon as the community call gets announced, because otherwise your questions get left behind, and then we'll have to like address them on next week's community call. But I will say, somebody did ask here, will we have another AMA to follow if we run out of time to answer questions? Of course, my friend, we have an AMA or a community call every week, so don't worry about that. I will give you XP for that. Let's see here. I'm going to pick at random, my friends. All right. Hamid asked, what partnerships are being planned to drive BOS adoption? What incentives exist for developers building on the BOS platform?
So we've already discussed a lot of that previously. People are aware, I think, of the fact that we've got Litecoin and LitVM, Cardano as major systems that are being used. On Cardano, we've got Sundial being utilized. Recently, we've seen a coalition of projects in the Cardano space, including wallets and DeFi applications, also joining this coalition, as well as custodians. There are other things that are happening as well. One interesting and important target recently has been digital asset treasury companies, and in particular Bitcoin treasury companies, seeking to be able to put their Bitcoin to work without taking on counterparty risk. That is going to take time. And as you guys are aware, there's also a large number of other types of institutional players like hedge funds, um, uh, firms, family offices that hold Bitcoin that have been looking to sign on. So none of this is going to happen overnight. Some of it is already happening. And so what we're expecting, what we're already starting to see, is the incremental increase of two things. One, the parties who are using the system are growing in number. And two, the degree to which they trust the system and are able to use the system is growing as their confidence grows and their familiarity grows.
Thank you, Yago. So Earl said, no question, just a comment for the team. My perspective is that this is a new product, and by using it and identifying issues, we're helping to improve it. Congratulations to the team for the hard work and long hours to build our future. So Earl, I do believe here that you are referring to Bro, which is Charms's product. I just want to make it clear, again, just very clear for you guys, that BOS is a stack, and Charms is a layer within that stack. Um, and Bro is Charms's new product, right? It's one of their products. It's a kind of like a community experiment, which is what they've highlighted whenever they've talked about it. But I do want to highlight there's actually no correlation between Bro and the efficiency of the BOS protocol itself. And also just no correlation with the BOS token either, because I know a lot of you were kind of um, making that correlation. So again, I just really want to make that clear today. The whole purpose of the X space that we had on Tuesday, the whole purpose of this the conversations that are taking place within our Discord is simply because we want you guys to have a firsthand experience of what Charms feels like, what Charms looks like. Obviously, once again, this has been an experiment, so there's going to be ups and downs, highs and lows. But I know for a fact that the Charms team is doing everything they can to help address those issues and guide you guys through it. With that being said, let's move on to the next question here. So He-Man said, will Boss offer staking options for token holders who may not have the resources to run a Slam node, allowing them to earn rewards? That's a great question.
Yes, so that is the intention. It will be part of the first release. We're going to be focusing on the core functionality, its security and productization, as well as UI and accessibility early on. And then we will be adding in the ability to participate in staking and securing the system, even if you are less technical after that.
Thanks, Yogs. Bitcoin Boss asked, is zkBTC denominated in sats like Bitcoin?
Yes.
It is 1-to-1, guys. It is 1-to-1. Let's see here. One final question before we wrap up here today, guys. Terex asked, what about LitVM and what is its relation to Boss?
LitVM is a really interesting story. LitVM is a rollup being built on Litecoin, which was definitely not what we were initially envisioning when we started working on Boss. But the same capabilities that we've built for Bitcoin also make other chains like Litecoin, potentially Doge, Monero, programmable as well. And so LitVM is a really exciting project. It's the first ZK rollup being built on Litecoin, utilizing the BOS network and the technology built by BOS.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Major shout out to the team here. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to come on the community call and speak. I know for a fact that the community has been so excited to directly hear from you guys. Obviously, you guys are on the tech side of things, you're on the infrastructure side of things, so you guys, have all the latest updates. You guys see all the progress that's being made. So I know for a fact that they are so grateful and so excited as well of all the breakthroughs that we've been having. And of course, you guys are amazing storytellers. You guys know how to really highlight the vision and really showcase like what we're trying to do with Boss, what we're trying to do with Bitcoin, the global economy, create this seamless internet with value, as you like to say, Yago. So with that being said, my friends, it is Friday. As you all know, we end these spaces with just some good vibes. Hillary actually did message me on Slack, and she said that the reggae was making her ears bleed, but which is kind of questionable for a poet. I feel like a poet would very much like reggae, but
Hillary is
uh,
a boomer's boomer.
I'm gonna tell her you said that. I'm gonna tell her you said that. Um, but yeah, with that being said, guys, we're going to end on a good note here. Like I said, we're doing a little bit of a mini giveaway here. So I will be announcing that after the space. And anybody who actually did have their question answered, you will be entering a raffle to win 30 Engage points. As you guys know, we recently launched our Engage Marketplace where you can take those Engage points from Discord and exchange them for rewards. And of course, like I mentioned to you guys, as we approach TGE, like Yago said, in the coming weeks, there will be an abundance of new, exciting rewards available to you guys. And again, this is just a simple token of our appreciation to you. You guys have been incredible. You guys have been supportive. As always, you guys have been this amazing advocates of Boss. We couldn't do this without you. The community is the backbone. And so any way we can give back, as always, we absolutely will. So with that being said, my friends, have a fantastic weekend. Go touch grass, hop off your devices, go be in the present moment. And I hope that you guys have an incredible weekend. Much love to you all.
It's a king of fire. Oh, yo, how do I deal with it? See that? Who saw join a burning bush? Babylon, me say them never learning push. Oh,
So they really want your earning push. They say lightning and thunder and them German shook. Oh, and you say that see I the first man I follow. None take your pill, say you could not make me swallow. So me find out your meditation shallow. Watch your function of who am I? That I'm a leader, but not the deceiver. Who the want to leader? Babylon where we not need.
And also, quick shout out to Lord Dre, always coming in with that alpha for his community. He always comes up on the speaker panel to get exposure for his community. Big shout out to you, my friend. You are always, yes, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You're always, once again, I always highlight this, but you're giving your community the tools and resources they need to successfully navigate this space, which we need more of. We need more leaders in the space that are operating with this mindset and this approach. So, always much love to you, my friends. Always love. And again, shout out to everybody here. We got a lot of regulars and a lot of new people as well. And it's amazing to have you. And we look forward to being on this beautiful journey together, guys. Take care. Again, have a fantastic weekend. We do have a movie night that's coming up in 2 hours as well. Would love to see you there. We're watching Castaway, which is, as you guys know, an incredible movie. It was our first little kind of exposure to, what it would be like if we got stranded on an island. Madness, absolutely madness. The human experience is very interesting because we absolutely all love that movie for some odd reason. But I'll see you guys there. Take care, my friends. Much love as always. And we'll see you on the next one.